Hit the lights!
You've discovered the Halfwatt Podcast. We want to educate and entertain by tapping into the most trusted source of new technology, the ones installing and innovating it. You, the tradespeople that build from the ground up. Join us as we talk with industry leaders, veteran contractors, and even some young blood.
Welcome aboard. So today we're talking to Kevin Miller, and the title of Kevin's, let me back up, Kevin's title is so long it needs to be in a wagon. Fire Protection Operations Manager for the West.
Fire Protection Development Operations Manager for the West.
But yes,
it's all good.
For ADT Commercial. Yay. Okay, so you said basically it's a business development.
My job is to solely go around to our offices in the West Coast. I have 14 of them and help them build their sprinkler division and their fire alarm division. So I just go around and figure out what they're lacking in their current structures and kind of help them build that up to the next level where we're getting the company.
So you work out of Portland?
I work 100% remote. So I'm traveling.
No way.
I'm traveling every other week to another city. I just got back from a 5-week straight traveling around just because I took 5 weeks off personal time. So
no kidding?
Yeah. So
God.
So it's kind of nice.
But what's your home base?
We're actually in the process of moving to Bend, Oregon right now.
Ah, Bend.
Yeah,
Yes.
so
I love Bend.
My wife's from there, so she decided she wanted to go back. So.
Yeah, I don't blame her.
Yeah.
If I could work remote, I'd work in Bend.
Yeah.
Honest to God. Less rain.
And they got the nice airport there now in Redmond, so I can go
Things
anywhere. I already checked it. Flights are good.
Especially if you're, so how long have you been in the industry total?
So I started off in the industry in 1996 with Grinnell as their shop guy, actually.
No kidding.
Yep, I did. And
so in the laydown yard type thing, or?
No, this was way back when Grinnell still owned Anvil Grinnell off of Yon. So we were
wow.
Way, yeah, exactly. When there was all one big building right there.
In the way long time ago.
Yes, that's how.
God, I remember that because I was working for Simplex at that point.
Yep.
Before they'd merged.
Okay.
So kids, Grinnell had only been in business for about a gajillion years and was, I think, the first sprinkler company or one of the first couple of sprinkler companies right in there.
So they were, Mr. Grinnell invented and patented the first sprinkler head, but they were not the first sprinkler company, but they get credit for that because he patented the first sprinkler head way back when. They drilled that into us as...
Did they?
Oh, yeah. They made sure that was... We were them. We were
we
first.
Were the ones.
Yes. So.
Honestly, I don't think I've worked on so many Grinnell systems, dry pipe valves and such that, they go back I worked on stuff back to the 40s and thought, holy cow.
I used to do Weyerhaeuser down in Longview, and they had 64 dry systems out there. 55 of those were the good old Grinnell E2s where the faceplate's 82 pounds, and it takes two guys to move and reset and put back together.
Kids, these are real systems. These were
These are men's systems.
These are, yeah. The only thing I knew was any rougher were some of those older Star ones, but they had a big plate on the front of them, and those are just matter of fact, I just saw when I was working for PSI, we were at a place and there was an actuator that had a sprinkler system in it. Sprinkler system had a bulb, basically a sprinkler.
Oh, yep.
And I know you know what that is. First time I've ever seen one in my life, and I went, "What the hell is?" And it was still in use. It was still at Bruce Pack, I think is where I saw it.
Well, do you remember the old exhausters on dry systems where they had that remote exhauster way back where you're like, what is that giant red thing on the wall? Hang on, why has it got a sprinkler pipe going to it? Am I supposed to know what this is?
I worked on one system with an exhauster, and it was right off of Powell. It was 130th, and no, not even that far out. It's fantastic.
Okay.
And that had the only exhauster I'd ever seen and worked on in my life. It was a 4-inch system, and it tripped and flooded in like 27 seconds. It's tremendously long.
Oh, yeah.
And so kids, an exhauster is something that senses the loss of pressure, opens up a big orifice at the end of the pipe to let all the air pressure out so that the water column just flies through the pipe. And then when it hits it, it slams shut and then closes down to a really small orifice.
You hope that it slams shut. The older ones, after a while, they didn't slam shut so much.
They didn't. They kind of took them out of the industry, I think, because they just didn't work reliably.
Well, they kind of got replaced with the accelerators. When we started going to the accelerator on the dry pipe systems, then the need for an exhauster really didn't feasible for itself anymore. Plus,
I did not know that.
Plus, they changed the rules on dry systems. You can only have so many gallons per each dry system now, so that helped limit that down.
So then have to put more dry pipe valves in. And
then when we started calculating the systems, it changed the whole world and the whole game, and we don't have to schedule pipes. It made a huge difference.
So that part of the industry I never knew. So I never did any design work or installation work. I was just a test and inspect monkey on sprinkler systems, and I would do like minor repairs, but I was never going to be a, I could hold my own on testing them, tripping them, knowing what was right and what was wrong, and I could do. You didn't drain this thing out, so it broke on you. You jerk, go repipe that inspector's test. And,
you're that guy. I always had to go at 3 a.m. to go fix the broken pipe.
They sent me out. If I messed up, I was the guy who went out and fixed it. So I was like, oh, okay, well, we won't make this idiotic mistake twice. So not draining something low. And I did it at the rebuilding center up in North Portland. That was the first one I screwed up on. And that was not fun.
Oh, I mean, if we want to go with the screw-ups, I hope you guys got time on your hands.
We got plenty of time.
I've done a lot of stuff in this industry.
You didn't flood his freezer, though.
No, but I did go out to Othello, Washington, to the potato factory. It was 107 outside, and we were inside a flash freezer, -30, taking the pipe out. Outside, landing on the ground, let it thaw. The next day, coming back, putting it back in, putting it back up, taking the pipe out because somebody let the freezer.
Yes, that is. I did a Maricold one time. I was working for Western, and they had PIVs and not control valves, and they were the baby blue CSC valves. Oh. Which trip if you look at them sternly. And I was like, there is no way I'm doing this without a fitter. No way. I was like, I said, and the simple way to handle that, it was to put a valve above the dry pipe valve so you could just shut the damn valve.
Yes, that is. Yes, that's awesome. It's the code change, from when at first it was like, whatever, it's a freezer, it's water, then they get into everything and then the code changes, and now that's actually part of the codes where on a freezer you need to have that
which
valve.
Is a beautiful thing. I saw them add that to Facebook when I was working there, and they just re-added all those valves above those dry pipe, those DDX valves, so that you could then trip the full thing and see it do its action and not flood. I'm thinking, why did we just come up with this in the 2000s? What the hell were they thinking? What the hell were you thinking in all those years?
Well, back then it was, we got to make sure the valve fully operates and works as it needs to be, and we have no other way of doing it because we don't know how much pipe's actually out there because we haven't calculated it yet. So, just put water in there and we'll tell you what happens.
It could be 1 gallon, it could be 1 million gallons. We just don't know. So, well, I'm glad we have that in common. So you worked for Grinnell before it was merged with Simplex, and it did the whole Simplex Grinnell smash the two words together.
Yes, so in 96, 97, I started in the industry. 2000, I got my journeyman's license. I fast-tracked through the whole program just because I'm very mechanically inclined. So, and then we needed fitters back then because of not too many people know about the union dispute with Grinnell back then.
I do remember. Yes, it was not pretty. It locked the union out.
It was not pretty.
Right.
But they also lost a lot of fitters, and a lot of people had to become fitters really fast back then. So I was on that track. So, and then just kind of went through everything and helped do all the mergers with Grinnell and Simplex. I actually helped move the Simplex office off of Nimbus to the, which office did you guys?
Rosewood?
Yes, the Rosewood office to the mansion.
I helped moved it from Bancroft to Nimbus.
Okay.
So I was involved in that debacle.
Right.
That was been, they were just Simplex. And they were still privately owned at that point. They were owned by the grandson, and before they ever did whatever the hell they did.
But see, I was old school Grinnell. I was like, why are we having to be Simplex Grinnell? Grinnell bought Simplex. Come on. So
we just called it Grimplex and went on with our lives.
Yeah, well, I was on the other side. So we were bitter pipe fitters, remember?
Well, I remember like Tony Cerruti was probably one of my favorite guys because I thought he was hilarious. And when I went to the Hill, because I left Simplex and went to OHSU,
Right.
Tony came up and was still testing with Kent Anderson and all that, and I knew him. And,
Yep.
And then I remember Rich because I remember working with him at Shriners, and I knew him, but I didn't really know of him. I knew that he had this great invention that he was going to make $1 million on, and he just showed it to me. Can we talk about it? I guess we can talk about it.
I've never seen it out in the market. Have you?
No,
well,
I have.
Then
Oddly enough, I have not.
Then I guess we can talk about it. So
he had this thing. He goes, "You should check this out," and it was a water flow switch with an LED on the top to tell you when it was an alarm. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, that's a great idea. I think.
So it was kind of funny. So we had to come up. This was a kind of a company collaboration at that time to figure out something. We were doing one of the largest Energen systems out in Tycom, out in Beaverton.
So Energen is a fire suppression agent.
Yes.
Okay.
So there's 181 bottles of Energen.
Dang.
Yes.
Dang.
nine 5-inch selector valves, all flange by flange before they had the grooves. But we had to figure out a way of testing everything on the pre-action systems, the flow switches, and all that kind of stuff without actually tripping those systems and the Vesdas and everything to make sure everything worked. Well, one of the guys is like, use LEDs.
Yeah.
So we're like,
yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Okay. So then we started drilling little holes in our flow switches, and we put LEDs in the corners of a couple of the flow switches.
Yeah.
For testing purposes, because the fire marshal made us take them out after the fact because they weren't ULFM approved.
Because they're not ULFM approved. Oh,
right. Yeah. So anyway, so we had to remove those. But then we just started using them, just wiring them in series inside of the room, inside of a trough that no one could see. We could take the trough off, and all of the LEDs were labeled, and we could see them for doing all of our testing.
That's brilliant.
We could just unwire all of the solenoids, and then there we go. It triggered because there's the power, there's the power, there's the power. The right ones are going because they had to have 5 or 6 different selector valves go for the big battery room, and so.
Yeah, so you've got a hell of a mind for test and inspect.
Yes.
So I mean, so you start off working your way in the yard, in the shop.
Yep.
Become a fitter.
Yep.
So now you're fitting and installing.
Yep.
And then you're also test and inspecting because that was a huge part of it, or no?
No, so my test and inspection didn't come later in my career. So I got a nice, unique career because I got sucked in by Dave Smith under his wings, and he was doing all the special hazards. So we were doing all of the pre-action, all the deluge, all the foam systems, all the cool stuff.
Yeah.
So in all the big warehouses and all the hangars.
Yeah,
So,
I was going to say the Pamcorp hangars, right?
Yeah, the Pancor hangars.
That was the most the fitter who installed that.
That's Dave Smith.
That was Dave. Okay, so he gave me the nickel tour of that.
Yep.
And because he was out there one time. This is when Evergreen still had all their aircraft in the south hangar, and the north one was empty.
Yep.
And then Marty Midoff tripped it. I'm sorry. I never saw anything as funny as him explaining what he had done wrong on that. But so the Pamcorp hangar, is it Pamcorp? Was that the name of it?
It was. Now it's owned by Boeing. Boeing bought it. Now they use it for painting their planes.
Which would make sense.
They fly the planes in from Seattle, fly them into the main hangar, paint them, put them into the other hangar, and bake them.
Oh, that makes sense.
Boeing owns both hangars now.
So when I was there, the Evergreen had all their aircraft in the south hangar, and then Dave explained the 36-inch header because what it was he said there was a 480,000 gallon reserve pond that had all the water, 3 turbine pumps that would turn on and pump the water into the headers. 3,000
horsepower vertical turbine pumps.
Yeah, which moved like 7,500 GPM or something like that. They were rated above their
monsters.
They were massive, and I have a phobia of propellers and stuff like that. Like even though I was a Navy guy, I still have that phobia. And I looked and saw, like, you could see part of the and I was just like, I could not be here when these things ran. I would crap my pants.
It was unreal when they fired off because we could fire them, because I did many times out there with Dave, a lot of work. We could fire 1 and 2, and then the third is the backup. But we could set it to fire 1, 2, and 3 within 10 seconds of each other. Dang. And it's just like, and they go 0 to 3,000 RPMs in 2 seconds, full bore, just blowing black smoke. And it, to me, I mean, I'm a gearhead. So it's awesome.
That is crazy. It was crazy. He said it would drain it in 10 minutes. That's that's how much water it moved.
There was 3 separate 12-inch lead-ins from the city filling that pond. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was never going to keep up. But they came in from three different directions off of 3 different mains from the city for that pond.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, then he told me that once those things kick on, then there's the electric pump that has the foam.
Yep.
And the electric pump was bigger than any pump I'd seen in a high rise yet. It was massive. Like the pump itself was big. The motor was big. The pump was big. He said it was like 12,000, but I could be wrong on that.
I think it was a 6,000 GPM
6,000.
pump on the 20,000 gallon, 2 10,000 gallon foam tanks. Those clear, big plastic tanks. There's 2 10,000 gallon foam tanks in there.
Damn.
So, I mean, yeah, it was fun filling those things with 55-gallon barrels.
So, well, I remember when I was on call for Simplex one night, I got a call, and the Daimler guys were out there photographing. Mm-hmm. And that was a big secret thing. I'd bring the truck out, put it in the hangar. So they'd set the whole system off by accident because their strobes would trip the IR sensors.
Yep.
And they had it all bypassed, so something wasn't quite right on it. But what had kicked on were the first set of sprinklers that control the doors. I guess the doors went first and the monitors, and then the sprinklers progressively worked towards the middle of the hangar. So he calls me up and he's like, "We got this problem." You could hear the horn strobes going off. I can't get this thing to go. I said, "Hit signal silence." Oh, thank you. So then he's explaining what's going on, and I'm like, "Well, I can't help you with the sprinkler half of the house." He goes, No, we got a guy to handle that. We just can't get these things to shut up." I was like, "Okay, click. Going back to sleep now." But yeah, that was a massive system.
Yeah, I remember testing those UV-IR detectors many different times on those foam cannons and the overheads. And
that's crazy.
I mean, they were designed for, you have a giant plane in there for you to protect under the wings. That's what those were for. So.
So it did its job, right? I mean.
Yeah, it was basically for under the wing protection.
So did Grinnell install the system out at Evergreen too?
So I actually, at Evergreen Aviations, out of the Spruce Goose, myself and Dave did that hangar out there. So
that's you guys did a beautiful job on that, man. That is a work of art.
It was an awesome project. I'm also, to my knowledge, still the only person in history to cut a hole inside that plane, because I had to run a 3-inch main up inside the plane to feed all the heads in the plane, and I had to cut a hole.
I guarantee you're right, because the guy because Keller, when he installed the fire alarm system,
Dak.
Dak. We should have him on the show. Yeah, he told me, Dave said he had to put in popsicle sticks, because when I was worked for Western, we went in there, and we could see it. And he worked there at the time. He goes, "You got to go look at how we put the wiring in, because we couldn't put any staples, no glue, no nothing." He goes, "So we used popsicle sticks across inside the
in the struts. Yep, inside the. So for me to down the tail, because that plane is massive inside. So down the tail on the inside, we used attic sprinkler heads every 4 feet, because they go 20 feet each direction, and covered all the.
So they like shoot out.
They shoot out the sides,
like a
right?
bow tie.
Yes, they shoot out the sides. So in order but to hang those, I'm on an extension ladder, because I can't have a lift inside there, leaning against balsa wood ribs that were built who knows by who, and then glued up there. And I'm like, I got to hang pipe up here. And then we came up with these clamps to hang it. So we're clamping around the balsa wood, and hanging our pipe from that. So there's a hanger every 6 feet, because we were afraid of it.
Yeah.
So, but it took a long time to hang that tail. I think I was doing that tail for almost 2 weeks. Dang. And it was only 150 feet of pipe.
Dang.
But because I was so afraid and going up and down.
But you cut a hole in the goose to put that pipe in.
Down in the lower section.
Timer, man.
Yeah, so I've done some cool projects in my career. It's been a blessed career for that kind of stuff.
Well, when we lit that pump off, we had to call the city of McMinnville and say, "Hey, we're going to light this thing off, because it sucks the reservoir down."
I got a great story. So at the time, the fire marshal out there, no names being used for this, but when we were testing the pump, we were like, "Hey, we can only test it for this long." And then we were told, "No, do it for this long." And we're like, "No, it's not going to work." And then we're starting to get down. We're at 20. We're at 18. We're at 16. We're at 15. We're like, "Hey, we can't do anymore. We can't do anymore." We're at 10. We got to stop. You haven't ran it long enough to get enough water out to make sure it's flushed. And Yeah, it was an ordeal and a half doing that. So
I'm surprised it didn't collapse pipe. Honest to God,
I've
never seen something come out like that. It was so much water when that thing came out. I just stood back and went, "That's just impressive. That's just an impressive amount of water." So what we're talking about is this the fire pump test. They blew it out of a nozzle out of the back of the building into like a kind of a yard that they have back there.
Big Delta nozzle. Yeah. Yep.
And the guy from Western lit this thing off. The fitter from Western lit it off, and we just stood out there and just went, "Wow!" And the guy goes, "Yeah, we literally have to do this in very short order because we are draining the reservoir when we do this."
Yep.
Like that's how much water we're sucking in.
But back in the day, here's a name for you, Dave Wilbers.
Oh. I heard the name, but I don't know.
He was the lead engineer at the time on the project for out there. And so him and the fire marshal went lots and lots of rounds because we were told we had X amount of water and we had W amount of water. So we ran out of water way faster than what the systems were designed for.
That's crazy.
The city actually ended up having to bring another lead out to the building and that kind of stuff to meet the minimum requirements that we needed for that pump.
So is there any tank out there? Is there a tank out there to hold it? It just sucks it straight out of the water?
It's just straight out of the city because it's the main water feed from the tower is right there on the highway. Okay. So we were tapping right off of it before the city. It was before the city. Yeah. So we were first people getting water, right?
The people on the far end of McMill were like, "What the hell's going on, man? I got no water coming out of my tap here."
So luckily different lines, but yes. So
so fun.
But yeah. So.
Well, but putting out, dealing with, because some of that stuff is all magnesium. Some of those aircraft are magnesium. Well, not some of them, all have magnesium in it and aluminum. I can imagine that the criteria. What the hell do you do with the sprinkler system on magnesium? You can't. You couldn't. I can see where the spruce goose needs it because it's, wood and.
Well, what's a really cool thing that no one really notices or not. So when you go in there and you look at there's an overhead sprinkler system inside the plane. There's 3 sprinkler systems because we broke it into 3 sections. Okay. But on the floor,
I saw the ones underneath the wings.
So that are on the floor.
Yeah, that are like they have little ball bearings.
So those are off of an aircraft carrier, off the deck of an aircraft carrier.
No.
That's what those sprinkler heads were designed for.
No.
They pop up and make a mushroom spray pattern. But,
for water washdown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then if you also look up on the mezzanine, in the corner of the mezzanine under the tip of the wing, there is a piece of 6-inch pipe fed from underneath that looks like they decorated it as a missile, but it has 4 sprinkler heads off of it facing underneath the wing on both sides.
Wow.
So one side's the bathroom. It would be to the left if you're looking at the front of the plane. The other side's the mezzanine for the store. And
look at that.
Yeah. So there's a cool little pipe there that we had to figure it out just because the shadow was so much greater than what we anticipated for the wings.
And the shadow is the area that the sprinklers don't cover.
Right, so from the overhead, because there's just so massive.
So what do you do on the buildings? Like, what do you do on the equipment that is like primarily magnesium? Do they just put sprinkler systems? Is the whole thing just covered with a sprinkler system, even if it is magnesium, and just let it go, or like how? Because I don't know what you do.
So when the design for the building was first done, it was for the main plane and I think it was 6 planes and 2 helicopters. Well, and then they added the SR-71,
right.
and they added the B-2 in there, and the B-2 is a fully operational plane. I know that because I got to take a ride in it.
No way.
Yeah, Dell Smith came out, the owner of Evergreen at the time.
Yeah.
And he took us up in groups, so I got to ride in the B-17 and the P-38 Mustang. So while we're on the project, and he fed us.
My hero.
He fed us lunch. Dell fed us lunch once a month out there too.
So you flew in a P-38?
Yep. And
that P-38. Because when I went to the hangars when I was working on the system, I only worked there once. They had just bought that P-38, and there was a Navy mechanic up there working on it, a Navy aviation guy. And I said, "Wow!" I said, "This is I says, is this new?" Or he goes, "Yeah, we just bought it or whatever, leased it for like $20 million." And he's walking around on it, and I said, "Wow, that's a lot." And he goes, "It's got working superchargers. This is one of the very few P-38s with working superchargers because these things are high failure items." And I said, I didn't know that. And he goes, we just got it. And now I'm going through it and making sure that it's flyable. That's incredible. You flew on that thing, man.
The amount of planes and mechanics and the stories that all the mechanics had coming in and out of there was amazing. I mean,
are you an airplane buff?
Not particularly, but I mean, doing that, I mean, I got to sit in where one of those big Rolls-Royce engines were before they put it back into the plane on the wings. I got to sit in the hole, and I got some cool pictures. I'm crawling down to the tip of the wings, walking on the top of the plane from the nose to the tail, God. You know. And at the time, one of my friends, who was also my doctor, but he was a Navy pilot, I was telling him about that, and he goes, well, whatever you need, let me know. And so I ended up taking him out there as a consultant at the time.
I would totally do that too. I would totally do that. Yeah, come on in.
Yeah, and then Dave was okay with it because he was a consultant. So he came out and he took all kinds of, and he was telling us all kinds of different stuff of what some of the cables were and why they were doing stuff. And he sat up in the cockpit up there and played with all the levers and everything for hours.
That is cool.
I was like, okay, I got to go back to actually working. I know that you don't have to, but so
get up, come over here and consult for a minute. Hand me that piece of pipe.
Yeah. So.
I went. My only claim to fame was I grew up in Southern California. I grew up in San Diego County, all over it. And when my dad was flying out of Palomar Airport, which is up in Carlsbad, there was one of the Corsairs, which is the gull-winged World War II fighter. The guy who had one of these that he'd restored, and he flew it out of Palomar. And it was one that they filmed Baa Baa Black Sheep with. So they used it in Hollywood all the time. And he did air shows and stuff. So he was up there. My dad was out on a flight with his instructor, and I couldn't fly with him for some reason. And so he was up there waxing the canopy, and I just stood there with my biggest doe eyes I could get, staring at this guy until he said, get up here. So I could sat in the seat of this F4. And I was 13 or something, and you could smell it. Like it has that distinctive odor that all those aircraft have. Oh, yeah. And I couldn't even see I couldn't see the top of the dash was still I could not see over the dash. I had to sit up on my knees just to look out the gun sight to see over the front of the plane. I have no idea how these guys could fly those things, because when it's sitting tail back, you can't see squat.
Yep.
You have to pull the canopy back and stick your head out. You can't see anything.
Well, I mean, I'm 6'2", and I was 200 pounds back then. And he goes, hey, you want to crawl into the belly? And I was like, yeah, what? Yeah. So, yeah, that was I should have probably done that while the plane was not moving up in the air. But I did sit in it while we landed, and that was one of the coolest things ever, and freakiest, because you're that close to that ground rushing by you.
Oh, yeah.
That is a whole new experience of,
yeah.
I've been fast on a bike, but that was crazy.
That is, yeah. I'm just thinking about that. I flew so many hours with my dad while he was trying to get his license that I had no desire to fly a plane. I love them. I love looking at them. They're cool. I have no desire to fly one.
I want a helicopter.
I could see that. I could see a helicopter. But planes just I love them. I'm totally into them. But flying one, I do not have the stones to do what those guys do, and I don't want to learn them. I just don't have it. And especially because my grandfather built these things in World War II. He so I was raised around them. And so I've read just dozens of books on, aviators and fire, fighting and God, no, nah. I'll read about it. I'll watch it on TV. But I don't want to. I honestly am absolutely astounded that those pilots could fly like P-51s and P-47s and Messerschmitt Me-109s and walk out of those things and not just have pissed themselves. I honest to God, I don't know how the hell they did it. It would just scare me from beginning to end.
So I got the experience to go down to Klamath Falls and work down there at the National Guard.
Nice.
This was back in 2001 when the new dinosaur plane was coming online. I have to call it that because I was supposed to back then. So they were doing the F-22 Raptors. So they were building the flight simulators. So I
wow.
I did the building where the flight simulator was located down there. And, we're doing all the sprinklers, and we're the only ones in there when doing the final testing. They got everything and putting all the escutcheons on, and the guy goes, well, you've been here this time. You want to fly it? And I'm like,
absolutely.
What do you mean? He goes, well, you can fly it, but you can't do anything. But you can, like, try to run away from the other planes, but I can't let you have any guns or anything like that. And I was like, okay, let me do it. That was the most intense, crazy video game because it's full on.
Yeah.
It rotates, it flips, it goes sideways.
Oh, no, absolutely. And you're seeing it, so it's into your mind. It's as real as it can be.
I got out of it woozy, and I puked all over the floor right there. And the guy's like, oh, so you went for the full experience. That's great.
I was still in the military. I was in Pensacola, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And we were going through school, and every once in a while we'd show some sort of video. They'd grab some video from something. And so it was an F-14's. It was the perspective over the left shoulder of the pilot of an F-14. And the whole video was about F-14. So this is where the F-14 came from. This is why we developed it. This is why it's got the cockpit, the canopy. It does all this bat squeeze. They went to the whole thing. So I was like, yeah, I love it. F-14's badass. Then they show this guy in combat with this thing. And they're flying over California. There's a big, just like in Top Gun, where they go out and do that over the desert. So he's flying out there, and he's chasing like an F-5 and, a tiger shark or something like whatever they called it. And they're at it. So they stop the film, and they show where the camera's at, and they said this is all of what the pilot has to keep in his mind while he's chasing this other bird, and then they go like this. And first it was all it had the actual gauges like with needles and stuff. None of that shit was readable. None of it. The artificial horizon just spun. The guy spun. I couldn't tell. I could not tell what was up or down, left, right, going up, going down, and you could see the G forces that was pulling. And this F-14 flat out outmaneuvered this F-5 as best it could. And he says that the narrator says that this is everything the pilot has to keep in his mind while he's dogfighting, and he's got about 90 seconds to do it all, and then he's done. And he's got to return back and get fuel. That's the way it works. And I was just, we all watched that video and just rewound it, watched it, rewound it, watched it. We all looked at each other and went, no damn way. And when I got out to the fleet and started working with aircraft, and not very often, but every once in a while we would interface with them on the radios because we would control them a little bit. Then you could hear those pilots, and when they would pull like a 3 or 4 or a 7G turn, you could hear them, on the radio grunt and deal with it. And it was like, I was sitting in a ship drinking coffee, nice and going, God, just
there goes that plane again.
I could hear that guy going, grunting as he's pulling G's, and I was just like, no, man, they don't pay me enough for that.
Now imagine the guy sitting behind the pilot that can barely see because he can barely see around the seat to begin with, and then all of a sudden the plane goes right, left,
exactly.
left, right.
He's so focused on his equipment that's try reading in the car while your car is upside down and spinning.
Rock
crawling. I was blown away by that. And now these new aircraft, these 4th and 5th generation, where they've added stop backup. I mean, it's like the 35s and the 22s are amazing aircraft.
Yeah.
So, well, we sure don't hit a tangent. Mm-hmm. But I'm stoked that you were able to do that. So they have a B-2 there now?
They do.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, okay, so for the longest time they did. I haven't been out there in quite some time. But yeah, they had a B-2 that was donated to them and purchased through that whole thing. And then everything happened with Evergreen, and then the Spruce Goose, and all became its own entity and all that kind of stuff after Bell.
So I don't know anything about that. I knew there was some stuff happening, and I just kind of...
Dell made his money because of Evergreen Aviations and his dealings with the government with Evergreen Aviations on the green and white planes, not the black ones. On the green and white planes. Yeah, not the black ones.
Oh, we'll let the audience figure out what Evergreen Aviation did for a number of years and who they worked for. It's another alphabet soup agency.
That they are. But, when he passed away, then the whole foundation kind of had to be reworked, and then it became its own foundation. But yeah. So then they started getting more donations because they were not associated with that anymore at that time. So
nice.
Yep.
Well, then that'll work out. The last time I was out there, I saw the SR-71 or A-12, whichever one it is, and then my jaw hit the floor because they showed the ECM chine, which is a unit that you would put into the aircraft for them to do electronic intelligence work, which is what I did in the military. So.
They flew that aircraft there.
No.
Yes.
Seriously?
Yes, and then drove it across shut the highway down, drove it across the highway down the road, and brought it in there.
I'd have paid money to watch that.
You know what a really cool story is?
Yeah.
Everyone who was out there knows this story about this hangar.
Okay.
So across the way, there is a fighter jet across the highway.
Yeah, an F-15.
And that was Del Smith's son's fighter jet, Michael, who passed away because of a drunk driving accident.
Oh.
So he made that a memorial because that was his plane. Mm-hmm. So he got that there. The building was built over on the other side of the road on the property. The Spruce Goose was supposed to line perfectly up on a certain plane with nose to nose with that plane. It was off by 4 feet. The entire building got shifted when it was halfway constructed 4 feet to the right so that they could line up.
No.
Dead serious. You know that big step out on the front of the building?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that was all erected, no glass or anything, just steel. They had to move stuff over, pour some new pads, get rid of some concrete.
Yeah, man, I need money.
Yeah.
Do you got any money?
Not that kind of money. I mean, I remember working out.
Money.
I was working out there, and they had the super crane out there doing the superstructure beams. Mm-hmm. Del drove out there in Eagle One. That was his car. His Cadillac was called Eagle One, and he came out there, and then they're like, "Oh, stop," because Del wouldn't wear a hard hat. So it's we're lifting the superstructure today, but Del wanted to look at the building, so stop, put the ding beam back on the ground, So let him look around, and then the next day, re-rig it, re-pick it back up.
I like this guy already.
I mean, it's like, oh, you just set us back by like 4 days, and it's like,
Hey, Mike here. I just want to do a quick shout out to all of our listeners. Now, listen, it's been a wonderful couple of months getting the show moving, and we have seen a ton of growth, right? You guys are doing your part. People are downloading. You're telling people. That's super important to get this podcast on the map, okay? We've got good lineup of folks coming in the studio, and the biggest thing that I want you to know is that I want to hear from you. You, the person listening to this, all right? You want to be a part of this show. You want to talk about tips and tricks. You want to talk about things that you're learning in the trade. You want to talk about how this has changed your life. You want to talk about stuff like that, send me an email, okay? It's halfwattpod@gmail.com. And I'm interested in hearing about people who are in the union and people who are not in the union and people who are technicians and people who do alarm work and people who do camera access work, stuff like that. It doesn't just have to be fire alarm monkeys. It could be anybody. All right? So let's talk about this so that people can realize that this is a career that will change their life. I know we were supposed to talk about electrical and fire alarm related stuff, but I'm blown away by this conversation. So I'm
like
in
I said,
no hurry to get to it.
I mean, like I said, my career when I was working back then with Grinnell and the way I was brought up, it was a very unique, blessed career.
Oh my God, I would be wide-eyed the whole damn time.
I got to do all the cool stuff, which even made it suck me in even more because I'm like, ooh, what's the next cool thing, right? Well, what's the next cool thing, And so that's when I got into all the pre-actions and all the chemical systems and the VESDAs and all that kind of stuff. So did you make a transition then from sprinkler into fire alarm, or did you just say sprinkler? Well, I'm a journeyman sprinkler fitter by trade, and then I have passed everything I started the apprenticeship for an LEA.
Okay.
But then I got into my first class, started talking to him, and he's like, yeah, you may be a little overqualified for this with your experience. Because I already had my NICET 3 and fire alarm, and my NICET 4 was pending. Yeah. So, and got talking to him, and so he helped me do all the paperwork and everything with the state to get approved to just go sit for the test.
Okay.
And then I got all of that, and then I got busy and never took the time to actually go sit for the test to get my LEA, but I was like, I don't really need it. And then some other things happened in my life. And
what happened in your life?
Life itself happened for quite some time, right? And, and then I found that I was only getting my LEA to try to prove to other people that I could do it, that told me that I couldn't do it. So I didn't really,
there was no reason to.
I had no need for it. And then once I realized that, then it was more like, okay, well, I did it. I mean, I got approved to take the test, and so that was good enough for me, right?
If you're not going to go out and twist wire, there's no reason to just keep a license that you got to renew, and you've already got a NICET 2 and 3. I mean, and working on a 4, so
right.
You get several NICETs. That's not just in fire alarm.
Yeah, I have 5 total NICETs under my belt. Lot. So yes.
So, what happened with like? So how did you you went into fire, you were a fitter, you went into suppression, you obviously work with VESDAs, and you're familiar with the suppression side of the house.
100%.
What happened then? Where did you transition to?
So then the whole talks, that was in 2010, and Tyco was looking into the whole buying Simplex Grinnell 10 and 11. I had an opportunity to go start my own company at that time as a service and test and inspection provider. Okay. So I left Grinnell because of some other family stuff and a bad divorce.
Oh yeah, I've had one of those.
Yeah, it was bad. Mine, Jerry Springer called me. It was a bad divorce. Okay, let's go with that. And I'm not kidding. Anyway, so I digress on that one. We'll leave that off to another conversation.
Yeah, no,
the whiskey bar might get drank that day.
I understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but then I started my own company, doing some stuff, merged with a buddy of mine. Then the economy took a tank.
Yeah, me too. I was in that.
And then another one of my friends says, hey, we want to start a business. All of our people just left. So I went to start work for Andy Schwartz at ProTech in 2011, and was there and built his business, helped him build his business on the fire side of stuff. Started off doing test inspections in the field, moved up into doing some sales, moved up to running the test inspection team, growing that, kind of getting more involved at this point into the fire alarm side of stuff, started to work on that kind of stuff. Our NICET 4 decided to leave, but we still had a lot of fire alarm stuff to do, and by default, it was me.
It was you.
And so I kind of,
ka-ching.
Yeah, I kind of grew into being the fire alarm guy at that time. So then I had to.
We prefer the term fire alarm monkey.
Oh, fire alarm monkey. I'm sorry, my bad. I'm still new. Remember, I come from the pipe side, so we had
fire alarm bad.
We had other terms for y'all, so we just keep that off of the mic too. So, but anyway, so just again. Right opportunities, growing my career and moving on. Learned all the fire alarm stuff, got my NICETs all figured out, and kind of grew from there, went up and kept growing. The business kept going, and then Andy ended up selling to ADT, so commercial.
So that's how you got into ADT.
That's how I got into ADT. So ProTech was the second acquisition that ADT made to start building ADT commercial.
So who else did they buy besides ProTech?
Well...
Or acquire. I guess that's the politically correct term is
acquiring.
We were assimilated. Is that right?
We gave you a lot of money and now you're us.
Got it.
Like that's how it works.
Like the Borg.
Yes.
You are.
But they just suck you in. So
you will be assimilated.
They don't give you any money.
This is the cube you sit in.
Yeah. So kind of like that. I mean, the acquisitions, it was like 64 companies, with the biggest being Red Hawk Fire and Security.
Right.
And then the largest...
Small little concern up in Seattle.
And here across the United States. I think it was a $320 million purchase.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So, and then...
I'd never even heard of Red Hawk until I got up and I was working for PSI, and I went to Seattle, and they said, yeah, Red Hawk's up here. And I'm like, what the hell's a Red Hawk?
Yeah, Red Hawk up there. Red Hawk was, so the Red Hawk Bothell office, Jeremy Munson and Mike Cunningham ran that office up there, and they were the number one notifier dealer on the West Coast at that time, back then.
Wow.
So, but yeah, where were we at in the merger? Oh, and then locally here, they also bought a company called Aronson Security Group.
Yep.
So from Portland and from up in Seattle.
Got it.
And that was quite a few
And of
million.
course, that's where Gage
And that's where Gage came from and everything.
it morphed into the whole.
Yeah, so over a process of 6 years, they bought a bunch of companies and then decided, okay, now it's time to put you all together and make you ADT Commercial. So 3 years ago, we all got officially merged. ADT Commercial came about, and here we are today.
A huge concern, too.
We're making waves in the industry across the boards with a lot of different things. We have a very unique company and structure where our growth is our ability to just keep growing. So that's our philosophy right now, is just grow and grow.
Well, and ADT is a name that is as old as Grinnell, honest to God.
Older, actually.
Yeah, it's been around a long time.
Yeah, it is.
I worked on ADT equipment you could kill a brother with. It was built like a brick crap house, man. It's unbelievable.
Well, here come October 1st, you'll be hearing a lot of announcements about what happened with the ADT Commercial, because we just got purchased for a very large sum of money.
Oh, big timer.
Private equity.
Okay.
And then now we're going to become a new company. So that'll be interesting,
And
October 1st for that announcement.
We don't know what the name is yet, though, right?
No, but I'm really hoping for Baby Eagle Fire and Security.
Eagle.
Just because it would be really fun.
It would be. It would be fun. I know that there's several companies that got picked up in that besides.
I mean, we also recently last year bought Safe Fire out in Vegas, which is the largest EST distributor down there in Vegas. They do probably 60 to 75% of the strip.
Wow.
On EST systems. One company.
Wow.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah. They got that locked up.
So if it's not
tight.
EST, it's Simplex. I mean,
but
every time I go there, I either see one of those two systems. I don't see anything else.
That is correct. So, but they do a lot of work down there on the strip. I mean, a lot.
That's crazy, man.
So,
yeah, Western States is not Western States. They're statewide or something.
Yeah,
like that.
they're a union company.
They're a union company.
Yeah,
yeah.
So.
And when I worked for Western, I knew that they had that other entity there because at that time API owned them, and they had all these big pipe companies. They made a lot of money in the oil and gas industry, in the Plains states, moving pipe and stuff.
So we're just fire alarm in Texas. I mean, not in Texas. Texas. We're everything in Texas, but in Vegas, we are just fire alarm down there just because of the union situations.
Yeah, which is fine. I mean, stay out of the thing. Yeah. So big things are happening for you, and now you've got this title that is unpronounceable. The
Fire Protection
Operations Development Manager
for the West.
For the West, is that like west of the Mississippi or west of Virginia?
So we've broken the state down into 3 sections: West, Central, and East. So I cover. Let me see if I can get this right. So Montana, Wyoming, Utah, Idaho, Washington, Oregon, Nevada, New Mexico, California, and El Paso. Just El Paso.
Just El Paso.
Just El Paso. The rest
just
is
a little part of Texas.
Yes, just the rest of it's all part of the Central. So, and
not San Antonio. That would be wrong.
Yep, just El Paso. So that's my territory now.
That's a big chunk.
Well, and in California, we have a San Diego office, we have an Orange office, we have an LA office, we have a Sacramento office, and a San Francisco.
Yeah, that's a lot of stuff.
That's just California. And then you go to Oregon, you got Beaverton and Eugene, you go up into Washington, multiple states with multiple. Oh, and Hawaii. I forgot Hawaii. Can't forget Hawaii.
Nice.
Yes, Hawaii is mine.
That is good. That is good. So you and you're moving all the time. I mean, you're constantly going.
Every other week I go visit an office and see what they're doing, how they're growing, what they need help with, if they have any large projects on the books for me to help review or to review their process of how to get to something. A lot of them are small companies that were put together with other companies. So we would have bought maybe 2 or 3 companies within an area and merged them all together. They may have been banking and fire and security, but now they're one. Now they're all under one roof. Now we got to make all of those guys play together and mesh and keep growing those individual businesses within one business unit. So my job is to just go out and seek the fire side and grow that into its next level. But
you're working on multiple. Like you could have a group that deals with EST, a group that deals with Simplex or an AutoCall, or what brands do you represent? Or
Notifier, EST, FCI Gamewell, Fahrenheit, and then off the shelf where we're Potter, Silent Night, Firelight, anything. DMPs. We still have radionics. We have Bosch. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of stuff. Yes. So you have to keep track of who needs to go to what schools and the distributorships and making sure that you're selling enough product to stay in.
And CLSS, yes, with
what's
Honeywell.
CLSS?
Oh, that's a whole nother fun part of Honeywell.
Really? Is that like a level of like us being because in EST you had a strategic partner?
No. This is the how many accounts that you've put online and that kind of stuff with Honeywell. So. There's a whole new thing with Honeywell going on right now, so that'll be a whole other topic for a day.
I'd love to bang my head against that desk for an hour.
They're trying to get into the integrator business more as a distributor and integrator.
Really?
Yes. So they're offering services that we can sell, but we sell it to the customer, but it goes to them through the CLSS portal, which is not a bad thing because they're helping us grow business.
Sure.
It's just, as a company, you have to be careful of, let's see how to politically say this correctly without getting in trouble, right?
Don't get yourself in trouble.
Yeah, so I'll just table that one.
The title gets much shorter.
Yeah, we'll table that one for now. But there's just a lot of things coming and growing, so it's been pretty nice. It's a whole new world of having 30 plus people report to me to nobody reports to me, and I don't have to wake up in the morning and say, okay, what does everyone got to do? Mm-hmm. And I'm waking up in the morning, I'm like, what do I have to do today? But
you are able to take your expertise and parlay it into helping grow organically these companies, and you're in a perfect position.
Yeah, so that's basically my job in a nutshell is go talk to everyone, go do job walks, job reviews, bid reviews, teach them go, no-go meetings, teach them the right way of doing proposals, making sure our exclusions are correct, teaching them the right types of language to put into a proposal. Just because you have a template, you can't use everything. Let's cut it down to what we need to do and what's actually good for the job. So, yeah.
Wow. That's pretty damn impressive.
I mean, technically it is exhausting when you go out of town for 5 days.
Oh yeah,
and it's you because you dive in, you go to that office and you're immersed within that office and all the people, and then you're like, okay, your brain doesn't shut off at night, so you're still working, and then you get up in the morning, you go back and say, I got all these new ideas. Let's look at this. Let's work on this, and then the next day the same thing, new ideas again. Go work on those, and then you're done. And then all those ideas have to work themselves out, so you give them a little bit of time, and you can go home for a week, then you go to another office, and then you got to check back with that other office of all the training you just did, and so.
Wow.
Yeah.
So but you do a lot of remote working. I mean, because we just talked about that. Can we talk about your move?
Yeah, that's fine.
So you're going to move to Bend.
Yep.
Which is awesome.
Yes.
And your wife's from there, which will help.
Yep.
And make her happy. And
that makes me happy. Trust me, she's happy and me happy.
Yeah. Yes. I know how that works.
How are your horses?
Yeah, shit. God. Well, the youngest one's got the craps. I can tell you that.
Okay, another topic for another day, folks.
Oh, it's the worst. Hay costs are up, but it's a whole. Yeah, so you've done the horse thing.
I have had many horses, and I'm good.
Yeah,
I have horsepower now.
Horsepower. Hot rods would be. There's a time when I thought 1 horsepower would be enough, and now I'm rethinking that. But I don't know. There's parts of me that still dig it. But
let's see. Would I trade my 47 5-window Chevy pickup truck for a horse?
I can hear the gears whirring.
Nope, that's not that.
Computer says no.
I got a 51 right-hand drive Bentley. I'm not trading that one for
a
horse either.
So I'm going to take a wild guess that all these names with your title have paid well.
Well,
I mean, you're not hurting for cash. So kids, please pay attention. Right when you go up in the industry, it's is beneficial, I would assume.
When you dive into an industry like ours and start from the bottom and build your way all the way through the industry, as long as you stay true to yourself and true to the industry, and one thing is always, can't stress this enough, own up to your mistakes if you make a mistake, because that's going to get you further in this industry than anything.
Nice.
If you're able to own up to a mistake and learn from it and say, yes, I did this, then that's going to show management and leadership that you're actually growing and trying to change. So
You're not a BS artist.
yeah, so that's one of the things. And it's just, if you want to dive into the industry, then that's going to be your livelihood. Dive into it. Don't just be the guy who's out there pulling the wire for 57 years. There's guys that do it and they're great at it, but they're still at that point. If you want to grow and to change and to have the opportunities to work remotely or do those kind of things, or be, an RVP or a VP of a company, you need to invest in yourself and grow and move forward in that directions. So that's, again, just be true to yourself and be honest with everyone around you. So you've been in the industry, I think a little bit, probably a couple of years longer than I have, and you've been able to parlay your career up to this point, and you're happy with it, right? It's paying the bills. You're satisfied with it. You're roughly the same age I am. You're probably a little bit younger than me, I would assume. Happy camper. So what would you tell the folks who listen to this, besides what you just did? Like, one of the things we want to do is we did an episode with a young lady who was a carpenter. We called it trade stacking. So you're in the industry like I am, and half of what you do, I do, some of it, but the sprinkler work is entirely new, and we've never really had a true fitter on here. I mean, you're probably, I'd say, one of the first true fitters we've had. So if you were talking to that industry, you could see where you could start off as a fitter, but you're standing upright, so you didn't fit pipe for 30 years until your back broke. Right? I've had a knee replacement already.
Oh, you have had. Oh, you've had parts fail on you.
Yeah.
Wax eloquent. How'd that work out for you?
I had my knee replaced when I was 38. So
wore out a little bit.
Also, stupidity of a lot of wakeboarding, a lot of snowboarding. So that probably has something to do with it too. But
I still snowboard. So
and carrying pipe. So, and it's always on the one side. I always carried pipe on the one side. But if there's the one thing I want to tell anybody that's coming up in the industry is, I've seen enough people come through the industry, and I've been managers of a lot of people in this industry, and I've tried to talk to a lot of different people in this industry. You really have to look at it. Don't chase the dollar. Okay. Meaning, just because a company is going to offer you $1 more than the company you're working for, don't jump ship and run over there, because you don't know what your opportunities are. You really need to look and focus. $1 is not worth leaving a company where you're set, vested, got a career path, got somewhere to go to the next steps, to go be the lowest guy on the totem pole for $1 that you don't even know what their capital venture is at the end game. So when you get set with a company and you get your groove and you find that you're happy and it's more like a family at work, stick it out, and then it's going to pay off.
Good. That is good advice. That's sage advice.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen too many people chase $1. I've seen people chase $1 and then come back.
Yeah.
And they're like, I should have never left. I would have been making more money now if I would have stayed, but I needed that now money. Well, there's really no such thing as now money. It's wants. It's not now money. It's what you want is outweighing what you need. I tell folks it's like a set of scales. Yep.
And if what you're doing for work and the amount of pay and benefits are good and the scales are in balance, you should probably not alter them. And in my own world, I did just that. In my last gig, the things were out of balance for me. I just was not pleased with. It wasn't the compensation. I don't think I could have been paid enough to really be happy. I just needed distributed work. I needed my workload distributed. Like, that's all I needed was people to distribute this to. Like, I couldn't do anymore. I couldn't give any more and still come home, take care of horses, be a husband, be, be a grandfather and a father. My brain was fried. I just was done, and I went back to being a tech because I'm like, I'm good at that. I'll just go back and fix shit.
I burned myself out, and the people around me and my kids working 16, 18, 20 hours a day because that's what I thought I had to do.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought I had to do for the money I was getting. Then I come to find out that all I was doing was making somebody else a lot of money. So
yeah, I can see that.
And happiness is not dollars.
It is not.
Happiness is how you feel inside. I don't know if you can get religious on this show or not.
No, you can
whatever.
get religious. Get Zen.
So, yeah,
you can do whatever you want.
So, happiness is how you feel within yourself and your aura and your relationship with God and family and people, friends. Those should be way over, I need another $1.
I don't disagree with that. And I don't, I cage it in my own world, where I kind of have a Buddhist type, kind of a Taoist philosophy in my own world. That's just me. And the life thing. So I left a company where I was seriously sitting in an office and driving to work every day and, happy and doing a good job. And I love the people I was working with and I don't have any bone to pick with any of them. To literally go ride a bicycle to work, to bike up the hill to OHSU and to work up there and to haul my equipment on my back and, to put this physical strain on my body at 59 that I didn't know I remember telling the CEO of PSI at my going away party, I'm leaving a company to go physically bike to work. And I said, it seems dumb, but I can't wait. I'm excited about it.
But when was the last time at PSI? Nothing against PSI, great company. I've known them for a long time. Well, when was the last time you were like, I'm excited I'm going to work, like you were when you're thinking before you even got to your new job?
Probably 2.5 years into a 5-year run where I was where things were manageable for me,
right?
Where I felt like I had a handle on all the aspects of what was going on. And you've probably experienced this, when all the cards are laid out on the table and you've got all the right people in the right places doing the right thing, business just booms. And it just boomed. It just skyrocketed.
I remember those.
And the customer, because I'm a huge customer centric person. So if I pick up a school district and all my techs are out doing something and there's no tech available and I can handle it, then I will go handle it. Like my client comes absolutely unequivocally over anything else.
Right.
And the clients knew that. And so I would routinely grab my tool bag and jump down the street and go handle a school problem, because half the time it was not fixing the problem. Half the time it's fixing the client.
Yep.
Let me get my eyes on it. Let me get my head wrapped around this. Let me see what's going on. I've been a tech since I was 19, so it's not like I can't understand, how the electrons are
Silence.
moving. Yeah. Let me get you safed off, and then I can work on the rest of the problem. So oftentimes, I'm out running fires and putting fires out. Well, the higher you go in responsibility, the less you can go out and do that. And
Yes.
so when the bucket of people that you can send out to do that diminishes, and you can't go out there because your duties in the office are as high a priority as what's in the field, I had to make a choice. And the choice was my clients or my structure, of what has to, because you can't be two places at once. And that was the breakdown, with the point when I got to that point where I'm like, no, if I don't make the clients happy, no money comes in the door. And ultimately, that's the choices I had to keep making, and I made them all the way to the end. Probably against my better judgment, but I had clients that were, almost in tears, going, "I can't believe you're leaving." I'm like, "I can't believe I can't stay. I just can't do this." Matter of fact, my last job, I was jerking wire in for a couple of portables, working with their electrician to get this job done before school started, because it was imperative that they get coverage in these portables. And he was just like, "Dude, hang your shingle and we will hire you." Like, we will hire you flat out, like, to come work here for us. Don't go away because we need you that bad. And I'm like, I can't. I just can't. I'm burned out. I literally had reached the end of my wits. Plus, working with in my own personal life, teaching and reaching out to students and making sure that they're getting all of the proper feeding and nutrition they need to get a grip on what this industry does to help produce people like you and like me. That was far more important. I would rather not make any money and help these students and these kids and these not kids, but these people just getting in the industry place their feet firmly on solid ground so that they can then reach that next ring. That was more important than anything else after that. And so even when we sat down like that at like performance numbers, I'm like, I don't give a shit. What I did will reflect in my performance numbers. I don't give a damn how I got to tweak this to make the higher.
You don't care about the whip and the P&L.
I don't give a damn about them. I hated those meetings. I don't give two shits about it. What matters, if I'm doing my job, this stuff will follow. And I need these tools to do this job. And those tools couldn't come at a fast enough clip. And I went, I can't, I'm done. I gotta go focus on what I care about, my core values. Anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
It's fine. It's actually kind of funny you said that. So I got a text message today from one of the clients I had way back in the ProTech days and brought them over to ADT, and they've still been a continuous client even though I've went up the ladder. I've still kept in touch with quite a few of my clients because they're still fire clients, so they're still part of my job in a way. And I actually got a really cool text message today and goes, I know that you're up in your higher echelon now, as she called it. And she goes, but I'm glad that you're still around because that's the only reason why we're still with your company is because we still have you to rely on. Yeah. And I was like, I was actually, at first I said, well, thank you very much because I didn't know how to reply to it because I was like, it was kind of out of the blue on the whole thing. And then I got some backstory later on from what happened there today. And I was like, honestly, I was just calling to check in because I was in town and I was in that office today, so I was checking on. They didn't have anything for me to do, so I was checking on some client relations. Yeah. Because that's part of my job, right? And I stumbled into it, and just happened. It was like just by me doing that and having that connection again with the customer, like reassured them. So even though I've gone a whale away from all the customers and the hands-on and that kind of stuff and their direction, I still have a connection with those customers because of my, I guess you would say, my values bringing up and being their guy at that time. So the industry follows you because it is way smaller than what anybody actually knows.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. It's very small. And names and people and reputations and the goods and the bads. I certainly have had, I've certainly made critical errors in judgment, and that crap followed me too.
Hey, I've hired some bad employees and had to fall on the sword and apologize to my team and and then deal with the repercussions of who I hired because and it's just one of those things, right? It's again owning up to your mistakes, moving on, and just owning it and going with it. So,
well, you look like you are a happy guy. You've had a smile on your face the whole time we've talked. I've never met you until an hour ago.
I don't know how long have I been here?
I would work for you. You've got your act together. You've really got your shit together. It's nice to see, and it's surprising because you'd think that a company as big as ADT is, and with its reach the way it does.
So let's rephrase that. So everyone associates, it's just a stigma, right? So it's ADT. So we are not ADT commercial. So we are a separate entity of ADT. So we just do the commercial side of the business, no residential.
No residential stuff.
We're not mixed in with all of the high volume and the what we call door knocking side of ADT, as everyone knows, right? They're a great group of guys, but they're a totally different office. Their office is actually like 3 miles from our office. So we're totally two different GMs, two different sales, two different categories of everything.
Just happen to have ADT
we just happen to have the same.
ADT commercial, not ADT.
Yeah. Big
and
brother,
was like not
little
ADT
brother.
Commercial.
Big brother, little brother. And then now we're going to be Baby Eagle Fire Protection. I'm going with it. I am so using it. I'm going with this as much as I can.
Put it on your business card.
Might have already done one of those.
But you see how that I mean, I've interviewed a couple of folks from the company and former people who worked for the original, the ADT when it was still
like P1. Yeah,
like Gary Youngberg worked for ADT. I mean, that's how he got his real big start in the business. So you know who Youngberg is, Gary is. So stuff like that. But it's just it feels good to me to know the human aspect of everybody I've talked to there is just absolutely been wonderful to talk to, so it shows me that if I had to go jump into, out of the hill and into something like that, there would be absolutely no qualms with talking to your company and like 7 others.
You can get a job at ADT.com.
You can get a job at ADT.com. No, I'm not leaving, Sam, so don't sweat it. But the
I got an extra $1.
Yeah. No, it just seems like everybody I've talked to who's sat on this couch with me has really had their act together. And of course, they've all come from like you did. They all came up from the industry. And so it appears as though all the folks making the decisions didn't come out of college and pop into this industry and didn't know a damn thing about it. They all came up from the ground up and they all knew what the hell they're doing. That's the appearance I get.
So we've made it a very big point to make sure that if it's a sprinkler business, sprinkler guys are running the sprinkler business. Fire alarm business, fire alarm technicians or old technicians are running the fire alarm business. We want to make sure our experts are kept within our company and grown and then go to the next level of management and the next level of management. So that's why you see in our platform, all of our guys have, even our regional vice presidents, they were out in the field at one time. Our VP was a technician for P1 way back in the day. So, and it just worked his way through and got into Red Hawk and kind of went on from that. So it's just a matter of...
I would scream that to several companies on the top of my head. Scream that taking the expertise from the field and advancing it up and tailoring what the pros and the cons with that, because there can be some cons with it.
It's a learning curve to go from field to office. I mean, not everyone is fit to go from the field to the office. Not that they're not physically fit, but it's just a different mindset to go from being out windshield time and on a job site to sitting behind a computer and looking at graphs and charts and organizing and figuring out what the next steps need to be. That's a different mindset, but there are a lot of really good technicians out there that can take that next step. You just have to train yourself to do it.
Nice. Wow. So. I couldn't have said it any better myself. Would you come back?
Sure.
I super appreciate you coming tonight. And I have about a whole bunch of other questions we didn't even get to.
I think Tyler's been giving us the eye for 10 minutes.
He's been giving me the stink eye. I would still like to talk to you about suppression systems. I just saw, and we'll cut after this, but I just saw my first deluge system in a building. In a lobby of a building, open heads. I've never seen one.
So
before.
A water mist system?
No, regular sprinklers.
But a deluge.
Yeah, but a deluge.
But electronically actuated deluge, right?
And hit by one of the inspectors, and flooded in the lobby. I've never seen that before, facing windows. And I've just never seen that with open heads before inside a lobby of a building. That's the first time I've ever seen that. Scary, because they tripped it by accident and flooded the building, and it was just like, how the hell does that happen?
Well, that's a technician trying to do his job and probably knows exactly what he was supposed to be doing and did what he was exactly told to do, but wasn't aware of the other factors outside of that. So, I mean, there's a lot of different kit, a lot of different people. You can send someone out to go, hey, you got a wet system to inspect. They go out there and they find a wet and a dry, and they're like,
which one's which?
Yeah,
What's going
right.
on?
So,
But have you ever seen dealers' heads inside of a building?
I have on glass protection on
okay.
big glass walls
Yeah.
that were protecting from, like on drive-throughs of some banks. I've seen that on the canopies inside and out.
So inside and out. So
Yeah.
that's not uncommon.
It's actually, and we don't practice that very much anymore. We have other stuff we can do, but now the new technology coming out, which is kind of replacing that kind of stuff, which we can get into another time, is water mist systems, high pressure atomization of
The atomization
water.
with the nitrogen, isn't that a jaw dropper? That's a jaw dropper.
It's amazing. I'm just now learning and taking all the classes and becoming the guy for the West on that.
I talked about that one of the previous episodes, where the water is actually, like, because it's atomized with nitrogen, it's actually dry, and it just is the and how fast you can reset the system.
Yes.
Oh, it went off. Roll new bottles of nitrogen in and fill up the tank, and you're good to go.
Well, now they even have some that don't even require nitrogen. They're using high pressure pumps.
Really?
Yeah.
Just air?
Just water and high pressure pumps. They're actually pushing the water out through the pipes at a couple of hundred PSI, and when it hits the sprinkler head, it comes out as smaller orifices, so it atomizes and just a larger covers
and
the
it does
entire
it right
room.
in there.
Yeah, so whole nother new technologies, which is what I love.
The future is bright. The future is bright across the board for us. It really is.
We got to replace the FM200s and the Halons and the Energen systems. And right now, everyone sees, the AFFF foam. It's on the news every single day for cancer and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I've swam in that stuff.
I was going to say, you've been exposed to it.
I mean, I've drank it. It's been down all over every part of me. I've been inside crawling in tanks to replace the bladders. So, and I'm like, okay, so now what do I got to do to make sure,
no kidding.
So
yeah.
I just set up an appointment. It's in like 3 months.
So to look for the cancer?
Just to go check.
Yeah,
just because, I had enough exposure of it, because that was what we did. We were the special hazard guys. So.
Thanks for listening to the Half-Watt Podcast. We always want to hear from you, and we encourage you to email us at halfwattpod@gmail.com with questions or even your own stories. Funny, crazy, or praiseworthy, we want to hear it all. You can follow us on Instagram at halfwattpod to stay up to date on our feed. And be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And share us with a friend, the best way to help us grow. The Half-Watt Podcast is a production of Now Hear This Studios.